It's a great pleasure to be speaking to you all today from the virtual stage. I'm Charles, co-founder of The Food People, and I'll be introducing you to the top 10 trends of influence for 24-25. And for Trend Hub subscribers, I'll be pointing you to the granular supporting detail that you'll be able to access from today on the Trend Hub platform. So let's start big picture. I'm sure we can all agree it's quite unstable out there, but there are plenty of reasons to be optimistic. There's a growing level of confidence returning, inflation is subsiding. However, I don't want to be a doom monger, but heading into winter and into 2024, there are multiple factors that could send a shockwave across that emerging confidence. From global conflicts affecting things like commodity supply, amongst other things, interest rates. Some are talking about an economic crash in the US and many more factors besides. All of the higher level macro factors show no sign of abating. Yes, they are becoming more normalized, but they are unlikely to change over the next couple of years. So the watchword is very much about agility. Be prepared to move, respond, and adapt quickly if the trading context takes a turn. But let's unpack that in a little bit more detail. Amelia will speak more to this in her presentation of the social and cultural forces, but suffice to say that we're moving from the 2023 global driver of under pressure to that of adapt to thrive. Knowledge is power and necessity is the mother of invention, as we know. We're now seeing a new resilience emerging amongst us where we're facing into the challenges and creating change by breaking through new frontiers. We're harnessing knowledge and applying smart technology to adapt to that tension that we're living in between financial constraints and the need to respond to the challenges of climate change and the Western health crisis. This is now transforming and reinventing the way we live our lives and how we think and interact with food and drink, incorporating adaptations that we're now accepting so as to emerge stronger. So this year's global driver is adapt to thrive. The 24-25 trends framework is made up of one global driver, 4 social and cultural forces, 12 food and beverage megatrends, and 76 trend manifestations. This framework is designed to bring clarity to the future horizon and seed the future business opportunities within it for you. But that would be a huge amount to go through in 50 minutes. So what I'd like to do is share with you the top 10 trends of influence for 24-25. But before I do that, I want to pose the question, how do we do this and why is it important? Evaluating and acting on what the future holds is critical. Baking future trends and foresight into your strategic planning, brand and innovation pipelines and strategies is key, as well as, of course, maintaining competitive advantage and risk mitigation. Those things are now a prerequisite. Our expertise lays in the identification of the patterns and shifts in behavior that anticipate change, and really importantly, why they're happening. So to make expert informed predictions for food and drink that span everything from global drivers and social and cultural forces right down to sub-trend manifestations in food and beverage, the mega themes, the cuisines, the flavors and the ingredients. And we do this with our IP-based research methodologies that we've developed over 18 years that decode millions of qualitative signals of change across food and drink, investing over 26,000 hours a year, applying contextual industry understanding and experience, as well as culture, creativity, emotion, intuition, ethics, stress testing, and of course, critical debate in the form of human wisdom that we apply to global intelligence, not only to identify the trends, but why they're manifesting. And this approach manifests itself across all of our content. But here today at the annual Trends Summit, it provides the contextualized strategic trends frameworks that you've just seen. that are anchored in the why, ensuring that you're best placed to flip the trends of today and the foresight of tomorrow into your opportunities for the future. So back to the top 10. Here they are. They've been developed from the master trend framework that I showed you a few moments ago by analysing where these trend manifestations were in 2023, our understanding of the wider social, cultural, political and economic landscape for the next couple of years, and then those trends likely influence, challenge and disruption factor on food and drink over the next 2 years. What I'm going to do is bring these to life for you in more detail, indicate the speakers that will be talking to these topics in more detail, and for Trend Hub subscribers, pointing you to the supporting resources on the Trend Hub platform. But to provide you with a short introduction, here's the top 10 trends of influence for 24-25 in film. And for subscribers, you'll be able to watch the full movie, the 9-minute digest on the Trend Hub platform.
Harnessing AI. The future is now, and there's no need to be scared. Rather, it's an exciting time to think about how we can harness the power of AI in conjunction with the wisdom of human intelligence. There are possibilities to speed up scientific breakthroughs, reduce costs and inefficiencies in the food system, improve consumer experience, and drive creativity. Pillars of protein. Plant-based is now mainstream, maybe even experiencing a plateau, but focus is now on the other key pillars of alt protein, like cultivated or lab-made, precision and biomass fermentation, and molecular farming, which is the practice of growing protein in plants. Awesome ambient. The ambient aisle is going through a revolution. Tins and jars are going gourmet. Meal solutions are getting a global makeover. Instant noodles and pasta are reimagined, like in breakfast pasta, while rice dishes come biting at their heels. Last but not least, there's powdered everything. Simple gourmet, with consumers watching the pennies. They want meals that guarantee satisfaction and deliciousness. Chefs respond to the call with gourmet takes on the most simple of dishes. Think chicken and chips, hot dogs, chicken wings, and steak frite done to perfection. They may look simple, but they're prepared with Michelin-grade craft and care. Umami 3.0. We can't get enough of all things umami, so cooks are getting more creative and bold. For instance, using animal fat to give rich, round umami mouthfeel, or taking desserts and adding unexpected umami ingredients, like olive or black garlic. To wash it all down, super savoury cocktails, of course. Retro throwback. Everything old is new. Unabashedly retro dishes from the 50s through to the 80s are back in vogue, from appetizers like prawn cocktails to main dishes like meatloaf, right through to dessert with trifle and roulades. These are all served on vintage crockery, of course, and paired with classic tipples like dirty martinis or sherry cocktails. Regenerate land and sea. Climate change is threatening our livelihood, so we need to prioritize the planet. Regenerative farming practices are vital to protecting our soil and crops, while sustainable aquaculture protects our underwater ecosystems too. Smart plants. There's power in plants. Indeed, some startups and scientists are turning them into protein factories through molecular farming, and others are using gene editing technology to give plants different advantages. They're enhancing the flavour or nutritional content of crops, or reducing undesirable traits. Both approaches have the potential to revolutionise the quality, availability, and sustainability of our food supply. Hack my health. People are leveraging the power of genetics, neuroscience, and nutrition to hack their unique biology. They don't just want to live longer, but also better. And one size does not fit all. For some, it's about simple day-to-day choices like changes to diet, or meditation and breathwork to feel better as we age. Others think further outside the box, looking to digihealth and beyond to not just slow down aging, but perhaps even reverse it. Ultra-processed impact. The debate around ultra-processed foods continues as we better understand the links between what we eat now and our long-term health down the road. There's still a lot to unpack about the definition of ultra-processed and why these foods are so prevalent. But in the meantime, the mantra, "You are what you eat," rings truer than ever.
So that's given you a top line of the top 10. Let's dive into the detail, beginning with harnessing AI. AI is a modern day reality with the possibility to revolutionize any and every industry. The real winners will be those who can leverage AI alongside human intelligence to get ahead. Scientists are already using AI to speed up world-changing discoveries, while food producers are working with AI-powered tech to cut costs and improve efficiency. It also has the potential to improve agricultural sustainability and our broader food system and help provide streamlined and personalized consumer experiences. AI can even help brands flex their creative muscle to stand out from the crowd. For subscribers, you can explore the detail behind this in the megatrend Harnessing AI with sub-trends, AI plus human intelligence, speeding up science, cost and efficiency, green machines, consumer experience plus creativity, all under the section of the trend framework that we've called Evolve Smarter. There are endless possibilities here, but we've distilled them down into 5 key trend manifestation areas that are developing at pace. First up, AI and human intelligence, as I alluded to in the introduction in the previous slide. In food service, for example, this may mean that an AI-powered robot chef could take over the chopping, achieving uniformity, increasing productivity, and potentially reducing food waste. This leaves the human chef free to create those recipes and those dishes and undertake the more intricate, skilled parts of meal preparation. Then we've got speeding up science, allowing researchers to identify patterns and potential breakthroughs significantly faster than through manual analysis. Ashiru in the US, whose Oleo Pro plant-based fat ingredients was discovered in under 3 months, when without AI, this would have taken years. And you can see this example on the right. Some food tech startups are using AI-driven recipe optimization to accelerate the development process, helping to create products with the ideal taste, texture, and nutrition. This could be through identifying the correct formulation required to match animal-based counterparts. Bell Brands have been working in this space in France, or by analysing potential ingredient flavour combinations to meet consumer expectations on taste. Unilever have done some great work here on zero salt chicken stock. Then we've got cost and efficiency, leveraging AI-driven stock management, cooking processes, vision systems, sorting and packing systems, and delivery routing to drive significant improvements in waste, time, fuel, labour, and energy. And we've got green machines. AI can evolve conventional agricultural practices such as monocropping, the blanket application of synthetic fertilizers, and intensive land use with more regenerative agricultural practices. AI-powered systems can continuously monitor crops for signs of stress and disease or pests to reduce crop loss. AI can help pinpoint optimal windows for planting, harvested, and even pollination. Really lovely example here is Up, an AI-driven broccoli harvesting system with a 3D vision that selects just the heads that are ready for picking. And then we've got consumer experience. In a difficult market, it can be tough to compete on price, but improving consumer experience can be a significant competitive edge. AI to drive apps and recommendation systems that can personalize menu suggestions based on individual preferences, dietary restrictions and past choices, even healthier choices, or even to pair the right wine with one's signature dish. Kate Hoffman from Grow Up Farms will touch on this later in her presentation. The second is one that we've called pillars of protein. Plant-based eating is beyond mainstream, maybe even experiencing a plateau in some spaces. We very much believe that we've probably reached peak plant. We continue to see the protein pendulum swing between those consuming mainly meat-based dishes with some plants and those consuming 50-50 meat and veg, as animal-based protein and plant compete more equally for share of voice. Those eating a total 100% meat-based and a total plant-based diet remain relatively static in our tracking. Additionally, we see more extreme polarized views and expressions and opinions in this space. Take as an example the amazing work of Kirk Howarth in boundary pushing plant and vegan cooking. He spoke at the summit a couple of years ago, versus an extreme pro-meat influencer like Jort's Kitchen as an example. It's a great case in point. But focus is now on the other key pillars of future protein, like cultivated, like precision, fermentation, biomass fermentation, molecular farming, and even protein derived from air. For subscribers, you can explore the detail behind this in Food Frontiers and Evolve Smarter on Trendhubber. Again, a big subject to unpack in this animal agriculture paradox, the fact that humans love animals, but they also love meat. First up, to touch on cultivated meat, very much an update, which now has regulatory approval from the FDA and USDA and is now commercially available in the US, albeit on a very small scale. And you can see the example on the top right here. That's a photograph of a dish taken at Dominic Crenn, who's been a long-term advocate of this technology at her Bar Crenn. Various other advances bring the commercialization of this technology closer than ever, such as bioreactor technology advancements that allow higher solid to liquid ratios, resulting in higher productivity. At the same time, the miniaturization of technology that could enable local lab-grown production on farms made by farmers. We discussed this last year at length with Ira Van Ellen. And we also cover this in our podcast series, TFP in Conversation With. Reduction in cell feed costs as food grade rather than farmer grade ingredients are proven. The Dutch government, as Ira told us last year, committed to some 60 million to cell-based, a centre for cell-based research. They've also approved the legal sampling, but it's not just happening here in Holland and the US, but it's also being developed with the governmental support of the Nordics, Japan, and Israel. Then we've got precision fermentation, still widely billed as one of the biggest dairy disruptors, which uses microorganisms to produce specific functional ingredients. Scale and cost of ingredients are still the big hurdles to cross, like many emerging technologies. Israeli startup Remilk's precision fermentation dairy has been approved for commercialization in Israel, and the sector continues to grow in Singapore and in the US. Then we've got biomass fermentation, used by fungi-based meat leader corn for many years, but it's making additional waves in the industry. It uses high protein content and rapid growth of microorganisms to efficiently make large amounts of protein-rich food, with the added bonus that generally the fungi strains that are used are not novel foods, so they don't need regulatory or novel foods approval. Libre Foods example on the bottom right-hand side of the screen there is the EU's first mycelium-based whole muscle chicken breast equivalent. We should also mention blending technologies, whether it's blending plant-based ingredients with cultivated or animal-based ingredients with plants. This could be the key to balancing consumer experience and consumer pain points in a bid to maintain commerciality. The Sci-Fi Foods example on the right that blends cultivated beef with plant-based ingredients in a burger concept. And last to mention is air protein. inspired initially by how NASA feed astronauts in space. It's very much in its technological infancy, but this is the space where cultures, water, renewable energy, and elements found in air combine to form air protein. One to have on the radar. So then we move to 3. We've got awesome ambient, convenience, waste reduction, and the cost-saving benefits of longer shelf life and ease of transportation. The ambient aisle has always had a lot going for it. Now, a renewed focus on tinned, dried, and shelf-stable produce has encouraged creativity, innovation in this category, adding many more to the list of pros. Ambient foods are getting the gourmet treatment with better quality ingredients, exciting flavors, and global cuisine influence. And health need not be sacrificed, with dietaries taken care of and super nutritious solutions in meals, in powders, in grains, and legumes. For subscribers, you can explore the detail behind this in Awesome Ambient and Savvy Living on Trend Hub. There's a lot to talk about in this particular space. Let's start with gourmet canned. Tinned and jarred staples are upgraded with quality ingredients and inspired flavors. Home cooks look to the global pantry increasingly for those easy twists. Tinned icons such as Spam go with more daring flavor combinations like maple. Gourmet spreads are twisted up at breakfast time with the likes of pistachio and ube. The premiumization of canned fish continues to evolve. Mitch Tonks continues his great work in this space, and you can listen to him talking about this on our podcasting conversation with, but also many other producers in this space, driving an increased appreciation of gourmet canned food. And we've got Moorish meals, adventurous cuisine-led ambient meal kits, veg pack meals in tins, pouches, and jars. And cuisine influence is spotted everywhere in this space. We see Indian black dal or off-the-beaten-track cuisines, Cuban ropa vieja, or Indonesian asam pedas. The work that Naksha are doing in this space is worth a look. Exceptional meal kits. So you can see that on the image on the bottom right-hand side of the screen. Then you've got Powder Power. Powdered food and drink has picked up pace of evolution recently because of a number of factors. It's affordable, it's convenient, but also generally it doesn't require artificial preservatives, and it's sustainable. It can reduce carbon impact from freight as well as prevent waste. Think ice cream, cheese, fruit, and even beer. True Scoops, which is the example on the top right of the screen, doing a great job of taking this to market in the example on the top of the screen there. Then we've got grains and legumes. 2023 has been the year of millet. New light has been shone on those underappreciated ancient nutrition powerhouses. Now the likes of sorghum, teff, fonio, amaranth, and buckwheat are reborn in everything from popcorn to grits. Millets and legumes are being used in baking, in desserts and crisps, crackers and frittatas, millet porridge and cereal, or ancient grain viennoiserie. Pasta and risotto dishes get a nutritious upgrade, things like einkorn spaghetti, Irma risotto. Less familiar legumes also appear, regenerative pigeon peas or carlin peas, which are appearing increasingly in many more dishes and recipes. I even had them in an African restaurant last week. Then we've got noodles and pasta. This very much got a new lease of life with a new relevance. More regional varieties, new flours being used, some of the things that we've seen, green banana flour, chickpea flour, sweet potato flour. You also got ultra convenience and ultra premium and hacks galore. Chefs, brands, and home cooks are mixing things up in terms of usage and occasion. Seeing examples of pasta topping pizza, pasta standing in for noodles. We're seeing it at breakfast. Why not? Breakfast versions of Asian instant noodles have been spotted. The example, Omsom are one of a few emerging brands pushing the boundaries in more sophisticated flavors and noodle types. We've got a super exciting podcast episode coming up over the next few weeks that explores this in more detail. And the last one's called out here, Rice Revolution, the new protagonist at mealtimes. We've got debunked rice perfection, global cuisine rice. Think kimchi rice, Persian rice, Szechuan rice, jambalaya, Mexican tteokbokki. and also regeneratively sourced, facing into the sustainability challenges around rice, climate-friendly, high-yield and drought-resistant versions that are launching, which don't rely on paddy fields. Then we move to 4. We've got Simple Gourmet. This is all about simple, guaranteed results, but with elevated culinary practices and principles applied. With consumers watching the pennies, they want meals that guarantee satisfaction and deliciousness. Chefs, influencers, and brands are responding to that flight to favorites with gourmet takes on the most simple of dishes. Think chicken and chips, burgers, hot dogs, wings, and steak frite, but done to perfection. They may look simple, but they're prepared with Michelin grade craft and care. For subscribers, you can explore the detail behind this in Classic Comfort and Simply Delicious on Trend Hub. So there are 3 core strands to this. Handheld gourmet, yes, burgers, but beyond the burger. Michelin skill, craft, applied to sandwiches, wings, tacos, hot dogs, and of course, cheeseburgers and fried chicken. That goes without saying. It's not just about the product, but the elevation of the whole proposition and its constituent parts. The carrier, the blend, the coating, the core protein, the seasoning, the build, the sauces, the seasoning, the condiments, the cooking processes. The example on the right of the screen is a great example, lovely example from New York. It's Alex Stupak's $29 8-inch half-pound beef and pork hot dog in a natural casing on a potato roll with a plate of sauces: bright brown mustard, carmine habanero bacon crisps, green sweet pickle relish, red kimchi, and buttercup yellow pimento cheese. Another example recently opened in the UK, in London, recently opened, is Fowl by Fallow, worth checking out. Within this area, we've also got American. There is a global obsession with all things Americano, but it's beyond what I've just talked about above. Diners are more aware of the history and the diversity of food cultures across the states. There are many chefs expanding the notion of what authentic Southern food can look like, bringing other cuisines and cultures to those of the South and redefining it for a new generation. For instance, there's a renewed appetite for dishes like gumbo, po' boys, hush puppies, but with new cultures and ingredients applied, as well as classic American steakhouse, diner, luncheonette, and milk bar fare as well. Then we've got French. Diners leaning into familiar comforts. French cuisine is enjoying a global renaissance. In particular, simple, delicious bistro and bouchon fare, where dishes are rustic and butter is not a dirty word. Reinterpretations of classic French patisserie, canale, queen amande, croissant. We've got croissant art in many different forms, slices and balls and rolls. A refocus on classic dishes, pâté en croûte, steak tartare, entrecôte au poivre, coq au vin, cassoulet, comté gougères, moule marinière, brûlée, dessert, trolley, and tableside dining. A real focus on protein within this particular subset. Beef, chicken, duck, pork, also fire cooking and rotisserie cooking fit in here as well. In recent years, the craft of sauce making has very much been in decline, but not anymore. A refocus on the craft of classic sauce making, it almost became a dying art, but no more. Also, regional French cooking, particularly southern France, the nuanced southern French cuisine from Nice and Cannes and Marseille. We see this borne out in a number of different spaces. Claude Bossy's new venture Soccer, that's focusing very much on cuisine from that area. And Mauro Calagrecca's brasserie at the Old War Office, which has just recently opened, as well as the amazing Bouchon Racine. Then we move to number 5, Umami 3.0. And we can't get enough of all things umami, so much so that we're seeing a third wave that we've called Umami 3.0. Professional and home cooks alike are getting ever more adventurous, creative, and bold in search of that ultimate mouth-watering drool. For instance, using animal fat to give a rich, round umami mouthfeel, adding unexpected umami ingredients like olive, black garlic or tomato to desserts, and washing it all down with super savory cocktails. For subscribers, you can explore the detail behind this in Tickling Senses and Simply Delicious in the new trend framework on Trend Hub. Again, lots going on here, but a couple of elements to call out. First is bigger, bolder. Creative cooks go bigger and bolder. They're layering up umami flavors, playing with mouthfeel and pushing boundaries. This flavor elevation provides another canvas to meld ingredients from different cuisines in search of that super savory hit in both sweet and savory cooking. Of course, you've got all the usual suspects, the parmesan, the anchovies, the marmite, the charcuterie, the seaweed, the truffle, but then layer that with miso and XO sauce and garums and kombu, and wait for it, MSG, albeit naturally derived MSG, and then taking those ingredients and turning them into stocks and jellies and powders and concentrates and sauces. But biting at their heels are the powerhouse umami ingredient of koji. Koji is the name of the fungus used to make koji mold. This type of mold is only found in Japan and other particularly humid East Asian and Southeast Asian countries. Due to its wide usage in various foods and drinks, it's very much achieved a status of being almost Japan's national fungus. It's used in the production of miso paste, shoyu, Japanese soy sauce, and mirin. Koji brings out the umami in dishes, so it's often used and best used actually for marinating and flavoring proteins, as well as a substitute for soy sauce in your stir fries. You can add it to the miso soup. You can also use it to dry age beef even. So think of it as providing that highly satisfying umami tasting food, which it achieves by breaking down proteins into the amino acid glutamate. On the right, you can see this in application at Molly's Fried Chicken in Nottingham. I'm certain some of you in the audience will have been or experienced that, where they koji brine their chicken for their fried chicken. But we're seeing koji-fied everything. Koji-fied butter and aged steaks and fried chicken, as we've said, hot sauce, the list very much goes on. Also within this space, the growth of savory cocktails. Experimentation with umami flavors makes its way into the drink sphere, from twisted dirty martinis to tomato cocktails to fat wash spirits. Ingredients like avocado and beetroot and sweet potato and miso and soy sauce and herbs are used ever more casually in cocktails to add flavor, savory depth and balance. Speaking of which, tomato drinks are very much having the moment. The Caprese Martini from Jack's on Bond in New York very much stole the headlines, but many more are thinking beyond Bloody Mary and infusing cocktails with everything from clarified tomato consomme to sun-dried tomato puree. And of course, savory appeal isn't limited to taste. There's also that savory mouthfeel. One ingredient that's trending from this textural point of view in cocktails is olive oil. But of course, another secret savory weapon is rice. So we're seeing rice being used in cocktail applications, such as mixing Negroni ingredients with sushi rice for that smooth, rich finish. So we move to number 6. Everything old is new. Unabashedly retro dishes from the 50s through to the 80s are back in vogue. An amalgamation of seeking comfort in difficult times as a result of broader societal influences like cost of living, along with consumers' yearn for simpler, happier times. Even if it's not your era, you can borrow your retro nostalgia. From appetizers like prawn cocktails to main dishes like meatloaf, right through to dessert like trifle and roulades. These are all served on vintage crockery and, of course, paired with classic tipples like dirty martinis or sherry cocktails. For subscribers, you can explore the detail behind this in Classic Comfort and Simply Delicious on Trend Hub. And, of course, Megan Van Summeren is going to be talking a little bit to this in her piece on the Jamie Oliver brand later on. Oh, my goodness, there's so much happening in this space and so much to come. But 2 areas to call out: retro dining. So diners and shoppers alike are seeking solace in the comfort foods of the past eras, and it's decidedly retro. Trend-setting menus around the world are drawing influence from past decades, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. And yes, that means things are getting retro from start to finish. For starters, you might want to think volleyball. You might think wedge salads, a proper prawn cocktail, cheese balls and deviled eggs. In fact, deviled anything, actually. And Gilda skewers, a throwback Spanish-inspired party food. You can see that on there on the center right. You take that, your pickled pepper and your anchovy and that olive on a toothpick, of course. Mains, think coronation chicken and pastry top pot pie, meatloaf, poached fish in creamy beurre blanc, asparagus with hollandaise, cheesy fondue, and to finish, banana split or knickerbocker glory, trifle, Victoria sponge, peach melba, creme caramel, or even rhubarb. That goes hand in hand with time-honoured triple. Throwback cocktails from the 20s through to the 80s are trending. So too are the old school beer techniques and wine cocktails. It's about going way back to the roaring trend 20s with speakeasy favourites like the French 75, that combo of gin and champagne. Things some of you may remember, Bee's Knees and the Sidecar. Others draw influence from more recent decades like the 80s, when tiki, tropical and frozen cocktails were all the rage. Think pina colada or frozen strawberry daiquiri, or maybe even mash them up to make a kitsch Miami Vice. In this space, don't be afraid to dust off the creme de banane, the midori, the curacao, the chartreuse, the amaretto, or if that all sounds a bit too kitsch. Also trending are simple classic staples like dirty martinis, espresso martinis, whiskey highballs. Old school ways of making beers and ciders are also having their moment in this space. Look out for more sour beers, Baltic porters, Czech lager, sessionable stouts, and of course perry and mead. Retro throwback. I think you probably get the picture. So 7 is regenerate land and sea. Regenerative is poised to replace sustainable as the way to describe environmentally and socially desirable business models. In part, this is because sustainable tends to have the connotation of maintaining a status quo, whilst regenerative evokes restoration, circularity, and positive change. There are encouraging signs that a regenerative, circular concept will evolve into a highly significant and impactful expansion of optimized existing systems and avoid being limited to a niche status in both terrestrial and aquatic food products. It can be good for farmers and producers, good for the consumer, for business and brands, and good for the planet. However, consumers don't really understand what it is and what it means. For subscribers, you can explore the detail behind this in what we've called Green and Blue, and that all sits as part of Evolve Smarter in the 24-25 Trends Framework. Much of what's happening in this space is an evolution of what was said last year, but it's just gaining increased momentum. Obviously, Ranieri from Ellen MacArthur Foundation and Domini from Wild Hair will dive into this much deeper in their session later on, and we're going to have some discussion around that, which I'm sure you'll enjoy. But suffice to say, there's much critical debate on the future scalability, communication, and certification of Regen Ag. There is an emerging consensus on the key principles, which include minimizing soil disturbance, maintaining living roots in the soil, continuously covering bare soil, maximizing diversity, with an emphasis on crops and soil microbes and pollinators, and integrating livestock where it's feasible. Many significant players are visioning a scalable model that can have significant impact in terms of climate resilience and climate mitigation. We also check out our podcast where I recently spoke to Tim Mead, CEO of Yo Valley, about the work that they're doing and sharing to demonstrate the on-farm measurable benefits of organic and regenerative dairy production. Also key to mention here is crop resilience. Improving crop resilience is critical for ensuring food security in the face of climate change and environmental challenges. Regenerative farming practices can also significantly bolster crop resilience. The wet and dry method of rice farming, for example, allows paddy fields to dry out during the growing season, aerating the soil and disrupting methane-emitting bacteria to reduce CO2 emissions and the water needed for irrigation. Nice rice, the example on the top right of the screen, is a really good example of this. Then we've got aquaculture. Sustainable aquaculture, seaweed farming, microalgae production are booming industries in the new food revolution. Such practices help to meet the growing demand for seafood whilst reducing pressure on wild fish populations, mitigating habit destruction, and cutting back on water pollution. We see companies creating self-sustaining closed-loop fish and seafood farms, whilst others are working to create alternatives to conventional fish feed, since sources of krill and other fish meal are depleting as our waters get warmer and overfishing is rife in some areas. Seaweed or macroalgae farming is experiencing significant growth worldwide. Seaweed absorbs excess nutrients and CO2, helping to reduce ocean acidification and organic pollution. Plus, seaweed is a versatile and sustainable source of food and also biofuel. It can be used in industrial applications such as packaging. And microalgae, as opposed to macroalgae being the big stuff, and the microalgae being the microscopic algae, are also under the spotlight as they are a highly versatile and nutritious protein source, which some companies are using to help address food security challenges. Microalgae can be efficiently grown in controlled environments with minimal environmental impact and can be used in a whole range of diverse food applications, from vegan meat substitutes to vibrant food colorants. You may remember that we welcomed Newfish to last year's summit, who introduced this concept, and the momentum behind this only continues to grow. Then we've got power in plants, smart plants. Plants can be smarter than we ever thought was possible. Indeed, startups and scientists are turning them into little protein factories through molecular farming, and others are using gene editing technology to give plants very slightly tweaked, nuanced advantages. They're enhancing the flavor and the nutritional content of crops or reducing undesirable traits. Both approaches have the potential to revolutionize the quality, availability, and sustainability of our food supply. For subscribers, you can explore the detail behind this in Food Frontiers and Evolve Smarter in the 24-25 Trend Framework on Trend. Again, lots going on here, but two areas to call out. First, molecular farming. This is about harnessing genetically modified plants or microorganisms to produce valuable food compounds, essentially. Genetic engineers introduce, in some cases, animal DNA directly into the seeds, transforming the resulting crops into little protein factories. Once the seeds are planted, traditional farming management techniques can be used to grow the crops until they're ready for harvest, at which point the proteins are extracted. And there are a number of companies transforming low-value crops, such as barley or soy, into small miniature bioreactors to grow high-value products, such as pork protein. You can see that in the example on the center right of the screen there. But that could equally be casein or whey, or even growth factors for cellular agriculture. As a method, molecular farming offers significant advantages over some other protein production methods, since companies can take advantage of the scalability and cost effectiveness of leveraging traditional row crops as protein production engines. And it's emerging as one of the protein industry's most viable contenders in the race to sustain our food systems. Protein produced by molecular farming, however, are technically novel foods because they're genetically modified. So they have to go through significant approval pathways before they can be approved for sale, but definitely worthy of having on your radar. Then we've got gene editing. Gene editing allows scientists to precisely modify plant genes to enhance the flavor or nutritional content of crops, removing those undesirable traits, like the fact an avocado goes brown. It can be used to eliminate allergens, slow down decay, or turn previously inedible crops with advantageous traits, such as drought resistance, into edible, commercially viable food sources. Some progressive producers are using natural solutions to tackle climate issues, such as mycorrhizal fungi, which forms a symbiotic relationship with plant roots, enhancing nutrient uptake and root health and improving soil structure to promote plant growth and protect against disease. And you can see the example on the bottom right of the screen there, and that is a vine root structure at the bottom right. And what you can see, the little white spots there, are the mycorrhizal fungi. That example there from a wine producer and grower called To Nature Kinder in Germany. So our penultimate space, number 9, is Hack My Health. Consumers are leveraging the power of genetics, neuroscience, and nutrition to hack their unique biology. It's not just about living longer, but moving to a better optimized living space. One size definitely doesn't fit all. For some, it's about simple day-to-day choices like changes to diet, maybe eating more plants or meditation or breath work to feel better as we age. Others think further outside the box, looking to digi-health and beyond to not just slow down aging, but perhaps even reverse it. What's clear is that health and well-being is more about me, and it's more about proactive intervention. For subscribers, you can explore the detail behind this in Individual Health, Feed Me Functional, Nutrition Matters, all in the space of Empowered Self on Trend Hub. As always, there are so many multi-layered dimensions to what's happening in health and well-being, which is why we've dedicated 3 chapters and 19 key trends in the 24-25 trend book to this topic. But 6 areas of rapid development include, firstly, biohacking. Health management goes more minute. As some consumers that are able to access it get familiar with their unique biochemistry to focus on optimization, leveraging the power of genetics, biology, neuroscience, and nutrition to focus on health creation, not just health prevention. And then we've got eating for life stage. It's very much gaining increased momentum, as is the permissibility to talk about and address this in communication. Age is just a number, except when it comes to targeted solutions that support people, whatever their life stage. Everything from kids and teens to pregnancy and postpartum, menopause and andropause, and the golden years. Just a few to mention, there are many more. Health, whatever the budget, there is a greater demand for health and wellness products, initiatives and education solutions for all. Health can't come at a price. There are some progressive brands and influencers that are addressing this and very much head on. Weight management. Half of the world is predicted to be overweight or obese by 2035. This is driving a wave of disruptive innovation in weight management. And to name a few, things like appetite suppressants and other metabolic disruptors we're seeing increase presence of. And we've got the blue zones. This is all about decoding the factors that mean the populations of certain very specific locations live longer and better than anywhere else in the world. They have a far greater concentration of centenarians than anywhere else in the world. Places like Okinawa in Japan, certain parts of Costa Rica, Sardinia, Loma Linda in California, and in Greece as well. There are some key themes. It's about a plant-based diet that is low in beef and dairy, but big on plants and beans, tea, and red wine. Community and a sense of purpose are key to longevity, as is exercise, especially walking. Uphill, if you can, that's better. It really isn't rocket science, and I suppose that's kind of the point with this, really. And lastly, we've got epigenetics. Epigenetics means factors beyond the genetic code. Basically, your behaviors and the environment change the way your genes work. It's based on 8 different health clocks: biology, memory, eyesight, hearing, gut, brain, and face. And this is now combining with wearables, DNA testing to lower biological age and reverse the effects of cellular aging. One very much to have on the radar. And Moodoo is a really good example of that, so worth having a look at what they're doing. And lastly, number 10, we've got ultra-processed impact. Now, obviously, Dr. Kevin Hall will be talking about this in much more detail later today. But the debate around ultra-processed food continues to gain momentum. And as we begin to understand the links between how we eat now and how that food is processed on our long-term health down the road, there's still an awful lot to unpack about the definition of ultra-processed and why these ever-prevalent foods have an impact on health outcomes. In the meantime, the era of sensationalizing expose media will continue, and the mantra of "you are what you eat" has perhaps never been truer than it is today. What's clear is that this is a moral as well as a food system discussion, and that all of us, the industry, is very much at the heart of the way forward. And you're going to be hearing a lot more from the food people across all of our channels when it comes to ultra-processed food, so watch this space. For subscribers, you can explore the detail behind this in Nutrition Matters and Empowered Self in the New Trend Framework. Again, a huge amount to talk about here. First up, the definition, and Kevin's going to talk more about this later on, but it's one of 4 levels of the NOVA classification that denotes foods that have a multitude of sequences of process to combine the often many processed ingredients to create the final product. Ingredients of those formulations usually include those that are used in processed foods, so sugars, oils, fats, and salts. But ultra-processed products also include other sources of energy and nutrients not normally used in culinary preparations. Some of these are directly extracted from foods, such as lactose and casein and whey and gluten, but many are derived from other further processing of food's constituent parts, such as hydrogenated oils or a hydrolyzed protein, soy protein, isolate, maltodextrin, invert sugar, and corn syrup, and those types of things. The classification is very broad, and we might say it's quite a blunt classification. So what's really clear is that not all ultra-processed foods are created equally. The other thing to call out is there's an awful lot that we don't yet know. It has been established that there are causal links between the overconsumption of these foods and ill health, but there's so much we don't know. And Kevin's going to talk more about this later. Why do these foods have these effects? What is it about these processes when combined with certain ingredients that make them problematic? How much is too much? Is there a safe level? What are the primary offenders? But there's a real tension here. This isn't just about choice. It's about the broader food system education and also policy. For many reasons, the alternative, a largely unprocessed diet, is inaccessible. It's not an option for many people, especially during a cost of living crisis. And Kevin will talk about hyperpalatable foods, a subdivision of ultra-processed foods that have a specific combination of fat and sugar, sodium and carbohydrate that make them artificially rewarding to eat and harder to stop consuming. Lastly, the point I'd like to make is around uniting industry. What is for sure is the path forward is about leveraging the knowledge that we have now and the knowledge that we'll gain into the future to bring the industry together in better processing, where there is absolutely an opportunity for everyone, which some are beginning to develop, such as the Matthew Kenny example, his company Earthco, where they've beginning to commercialize a range of affordable, non-ultra processed, nutritious vegan meals that are ready to eat for consumers. So that wraps up the deep dive into the top 10 trends of influence that sit as part of the top 20. And here are the headlines of 11 to 20 of the top 20 for 24-25, with things like the real thing and the oh so rich ever reinventing space of sweet pastry. Don't forget, food is joy. It's really key not to forget that. Budget-friendly dining, big night out, full fat goodness, packaging, evolution, robotics, gut 360, and know your sugar. Everyone who's participating in today's event will be able to access the top 10 trends video and the top 20 downloadable trends infographic, as well as all of the links to today's presentations, replay links at the end of today's live broadcast. In the meantime, thanks for listening, and I hope you found that thought-provoking. I hope it sparked some thoughts and ideas, made connections for you to help you in working out how you shift the future of food and drink. For Trend Hub subscribers, I invite you to explore the rich, granular detail, the books, the articles, and the plethora of supporting videos of the 24-25 predictions on the Trend Hub platform, are all available from today. Shakufa is going to be sharing a deep dive into cuisines and gastronomy later in the agenda, and we're going to have a whole discussion about cuisines of influence after that as well. So thanks for listening. Enjoy the rest of the summit, and I'll leave you with one question, not just for now, but to keep asking yourself, and that is, how are you shifting the future of food and drink? Thanks for listening.